For some analysis on the feasibility of Trump's immigration plans, let's bring in Jason Hauser. Jason was the former chief of staff for ICE during the Biden administration, and he joins us now from Annapolis, Maryland. Jason, can we start with, as part of President Trump's crackdown on immigration mass deportations, as they're likely to come, talk us through what that might actually physically look like on the streets of America.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, very quickly, you see the current administration phasing up sort of both their operations and the recension of policy and the execution of new policy. Recension of policy means you're going to see ICE authorities be able to go into sensitive locations, whether that's churches, schools, hospitals, courthouses, motor vehicle administration offices, and then also you're going to see, sort of as you've seen with the pull down of the CBP-1 Act, you're going to see the rollback of parole, the reimplementation of Remain in Mexico, and the ramp up of collateral arrests. But in the operational sense, you're starting to see sort of the discussions about sort of mass campaign plans and more the larger metropolitan areas where a lot of migrants reside and work and live and with their families. But you're also looking at Secretary Rubio and others talking about expanding removal flights over the next 2 months. That'll take a lot of time and a lot of resources.
You're talking about resources. ICE is already struggling with staffing shortages and staffing retention. Is a project as large as this even possible, given the manpower available to the agency at this point?
Quite frankly, ICE officers have the hardest job in federal law enforcement.
Okay.
And every day they're out there trying to focus on public safety, national security threats. A lot of the political rhetoric that has been used recently is showing that may not be the case in this new administration. Additionally, the Senate and the House just passed a bill, the Lake and Riley Act, that is really focused in making ICE sort of commit its resources to mandatorily detaining the low-level criminals that do petty theft and offenses. This is going to sort of exacerbate the sort of resource constraints that ICE has.
Yep.
ICE has about 5,000 or 5,800 deportation officers. There's close to 14 million people that are within the immigration system. It's just another challenge in sort of a broken immigration system. And the current administration seems to be focused on sort of the political messaging and political rhetoric more than fixing the broken system.
Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, says ICE raids targeting undocumented immigrants have already begun today. Any concern about how these might carried out, safety on both sides?
Yeah, I mean, you see a chilling effect when you sort of give this sort of, you build fear into this system.
Yes.
Mr. Homan has talked about focusing our immigration enforcement officers on the most violent criminals in our communities, the worst of the worst, as he says.
Yes.
But then you also see the sort of policies which they're sort of pulling back and implementing, which that doesn't seem to be the case. But when you see these chilling effects where people are scared to go to work, you also put law enforcement in harm's way. You put them in places where the communities, there needs to be that public partnership with law enforcement to keep our community safe. And the more and more that you act in sort of this punitive manner, over time, that it tears down that sort of partnership, and in the long term, it doesn't work out for our communities, and it keeps us less safe.
Jason, is it even feasible to deport those people back to their countries of origin? It's
an interesting question, but right now, just for an example, there's about 1.4 million people with final orders of removal that have been told that in America that they don't have a status to be there and should be removed. Well, quite frankly, about 400,000 of those are not removable. And what I mean by that is that they're from nations where they don't accept return flights, or we don't have agreements to return people to, like Cuba and Venezuela. Yeah. So that's something that Secretary Rubio and the State Department are going to have to tackle. Mr. Homan is going to follow through on his promise of 1 million removals.
And finally, Trump's approach here, militarizing the southern border, ending birthright citizenship, and threatening mass deportation. In your view, is this the right way to tackle border security? And I'm guessing from what you're saying, you don't think it is.
Well, there does need to be more resources focused on the border on national security threats.
Yes.
A lot of drug trafficking, human smuggling, human trafficking. we need to tackle this, and that's a bipartisan issue. Everybody is committed to that. But what you see with the sort of discussion of like going away with birthright citizenship, it's just sort of like it's a political stunt to sort of like there's this theory that you can show America to be the most inhospitable place for migrants, and sort of deter them from exercising our laws, quite frankly. And a lot of these migrants are coming from horrific situations in countries that are broken, where they're humanitarian risk, and they're seeking asylum here under our law. You can't really deter that. People are going to continue to come. What you need to do is not focus on political stunts like doing away with birthright citizenship, but focus on creating a system that can meet the volume of the challenge of the migratory distress that we see across the Western Hemisphere.
You clearly understand this issue from firsthand experience, Jason, and we appreciate you sharing your insights with us. Jason Hauser is a former chief of staff for ICE during the Biden administration. He was kind enough to join us tonight from Annapolis, Maryland. Thank you for your insights, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.